Hey, darling, I see you look a little downcast, so I'm going to cheer you up with a joke.
Really?
Yes. Do you remember when I had 2 weeks off and told you that I was going to beat the rest of Red Dead Redemption 2 in that time?
That's a good one.
That was never going to happen.
The Gaming Lovers Podcast with Brendo and Jem. G'day and welcome to episode 72 of the Gaming Lovers Podcast.
Oh, the big 70. It snuck up on me. Wasn't expecting that number.
G'day, I'm Jem.
I'm Brendo. We are the Gaming Lovers, enjoying all sorts of video games this week. It has been a work-free week for me, which means I've got to play more games than I normally get to, so I'm a happy boy.
But still not as much Red Dead Redemption as you promised.
Okay, look, there was... sometimes plans change in life, plans change in gaming goals, plans change.
Or goals change. We've both done that numerous times. We'll be like, yes, I'll do this and this and this, and then the next week. So I played nothing. Or at least one thing.
Some of us could have seen this coming with my backlog clearing initiative falling over because I did say that I was going to buy a game last week. I did buy a game and I've played like 13 hours of it.
Well,
so
good.
It's...
Before we get there though, what's today's topic?
Well, with some interesting news, there are some games that you sort of keep on your peripheral and you're sort of like, yeah, I'll keep an eye on that. Or you have like a rough knowledge of the game, but not too much, and then it keeps showing up in news feeds about new features, new details. Mm-hmm. With an ensemble of all sorts of characters, the video game Brawlhalla is starting to put together quite an interesting little roster of guest characters. Most recently, a few WWE superstars have joined the fight, and you can fight them with such characters as Rayman or Hellboy, or Adventure Time's Finn Jake and Princess Bubblegum. These are an interesting dynamic when you put real characters, real life people, and cartoon characters in a game where they can beat each other up. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So we thought we'd have a look at some of the more interesting guest characters, particularly in fighting game history.
Yes, there's a lot of weird ones. Ones I didn't even realize were a thing. So look forward to that. Right now it is time for...
Gaming Goals! Gaming Goals!
I had no idea what you were doing then.
No, I never know what I'm doing with gaming goals. I don't want it to be the same every week, and sometimes you got to experiment with your voice and try new songs.
Some weeks we sound so harmonious, and other weeks we are just a hot mess.
There are many genres of music that I have not yet tried. Just wait for the opera introduction of Gaming Goals, coming soon to a Gaming Lovers podcast near you.
Will you be singing in Italian?
No, in opera.
Oh dear. All right. You've had quite the week, so you share at least one of your games first.
Where do we begin? I will begin because I have been on leave and have the ability to catch up with friends for a change. My job is quite antisocial with the hours. I'm usually working when everyone else is free. Mm-hmm. I'm usually sleeping when everyone else is working, and it just sort of never lets my schedule line up with my friends. But being on leave and was able to catch up with my good buddy, the Falcon, that meant that the Silent Hill marathon train has been restarted and we are on the move again after a long absence. We did 2 games in like 2 weeks and then did nothing for like the last month and a half, whatever, how long it's been. But we beat Silent Hill 3, a game I was looking forward to because back in the day, I found it to be one of my favourite Silent Hill games. And now, playing it like 16 years later, it was arduous and boring and has the most obtuse, ridiculously convoluted puzzle requirements for key items. Alright, I will pitch a problem to you that is early in the game, and I want you to see what sort of ideas you come up with to solve this puzzle. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're in a storeroom. Imagine a storeroom of like a restaurant or whatever. You've got shelves filled with cans of food and all sorts of things. You've got a pallet with boxes on top of it, and you can see in the slats of the pallet there is a key just out of reach. Mm-hmm. How do you get that? How do you get that key? The boxes on the pallet are too heavy to move.
How skinny are my hands?
They are too plump to reach in and grab it by hand.
Do I have tongs?
Okay, that is the actual solution to the puzzle. You have to go to the bakery and get a pair of tongs and use that to get the key. You were not supposed... You've ruined this.
How have I ruined it? I've just proven I'm smart.
What's annoying is there are multiple things that you can see in the background of that storage room that you're like, just use that. It's a long cereal box. Feed it in and wiggle it, and you can knock the key closer. Or you have a coat hanger in your inventory. Just hook the darn key with the coat hanger. But no, you have to go to the bakery and get the stupid tongs to get the stupid key. And there are so many situations in this game where those sort of weird puzzles, completely unnecessary, and they are just like the worst example of survival horror puzzling that I can remember. Disappointing. I've been looking forward to playing Silent Hill 3, and it has been the dud of the series so far. Plot-wise, puzzle-wise. My goodness, we're playing the whole series on hard difficulty, combat-wise. The first one was a breeze. The second one, we finished with like one health drink and a couple of handgun bullets left, so we sort of towed the line a bit. We died so many times in this game. The final boss took like half an hour of consistent play to beat. I felt like I was doing a JRPG. And we failed at that repeatedly in that final boss. It was tough. The game was tough. Very few supplies in Silent Hill 3 compared to the others. There must be a food shortage on the health drink side of things, or the health pack side of things. Maybe because part of it's set in the world of Silent Hill and you use the same maps as Silent Hill 2. Maybe James from Silent Hill 2 stole all the health drinks and there was nothing left for Heather.
Maybe. Well, you would imagine in a real-life scenario of an apocalypse, supplies would eventually run low the longer it continues. So there is that.
Now, to make it even worse, to make the experience of Silent Hill 3 even worse, Silent Hill 2 they redubbed because there was conflicting issues of legalities and things like that, and people not wanting their voices to be reused in a new project, even though their voices had been recorded for an original project, and now the HD
the license
remaster's
ran
coming out.
It's a new game. We've discussed these issues before. It seems petty, but there are reasons that there are licensing agreements on voice contracts. Thank you very much.
I agree. I'm fine with that because you're a voiceover artist. We share a bank account, so if you get paid for using your voice on a longer-term basis, I'm happy. I'm happy. Silent Hill 2, they must have resolved it because you have the option of the original dialogue or the new voices. We started with the new voices and we hated them, changed them back as soon as possible. Silent Hill 3 does not give you an option and only has a new dub. Ouch. With such ridiculously bad voiceover artists like Yuri Lowenthal, Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, the chick who plays Yukiko Amagi from Persona 4, I can't remember her name, but halfway through the game I'm like, that's Yukiko. She's evil. This is great.
Those are incredible voice actors. I hope you're being silly when you say that it was terrible.
I am, but just imagine if Mass Effect got redubbed and all the lip flaps were out of sync and wrong and just
that's
the
more
character's
the sound
delivery.
Editing's fault if it's out of sync.
No, but the delivery of a line's completely changed. If Garrus no longer said, can it wait? I'm in the middle of some calibrations. And instead he said, can it wait? I'm in the middle of some calibrations. It's completely wrong. It's a famous line, and all of the dialogue in Silent Hill 3 was bad. The puzzles were bad. The combat was bad. I'm disappointed. I wanted it to be enjoyable. Why does nostalgia do this to me? But we're going to be moving on with Silent Hill 4, starting probably next week. So look forward to that. A game that originally was not actually started as a Silent Hill game. Interesting. The little development story. What about you? What have you been playing this week? It's not Divinity Original Sin.
No.
I know that because we haven't scratched that at all.
No. I think we talked about it and we're like, I don't know if I have the energy or like the right mindset to start that game because we've hit a wall. Several, actually.
Yeah.
Fire Emblem Three Houses is still going strong, although it is breaking me.
breaking
emotionally.
Oh,
Fun to
dear.
play. I've done very well with like my battles and things like that. And it's kind of hit the point where I kind of knew it was going to happen, where the three different houses face off for real.
Yep.
And having all my past students like dying, I'm not cool with that. I'm like, this is not fair. No, I want to save them all.
When the original trailer was launched for Fire Emblem Three Houses and you're an instructor and you have children that you're guiding and you're trying to nurture and help them grow, your first thought is, oh, that's so cool. My second almost immediate thought was, oh, wait, I'm going to bond with these people in a military academy setting where rival nations are going to be at war with each other. This is not going to be good.
No. So there was one or two really sad moments in that fight, and one of the houses I deliberately kind of didn't even attack them at all. I'm like, nope, just focus on beating this side as quickly as possible so that way we end the fight quickly and less casualties.
Yep, that's the target of the combat encounter. You had to.
Well, I was just
target.
going after the head honcho of that one to kind of end the fight.
Yep.
Like the sooner I do this, the less people will die. But then all the students from the other house kept attacking me, and then the little interactions, they're like, oh, Teach, I can't believe you're like fighting us. I thought you would be our ally. This is really disappointing, Teach. I'm like, excuse me, I'm not the one who's fighting you. I deliberately left you alone. You're the one who's attacking me, you stupid AI.
You're the one jamming me in the sternum with a spear. Can you please not blame me for this?
So like,
I have also really enjoyed the moments because I've been playing at one end of the house, you've been playing at the other end of the house. Mainly because you've been playing a spoiler-heavy game that I might play. So, we're trying to keep it as spoiler-free as possible.
Yep.
And I need to go into the room that you're playing in, and as soon as I open the door, I just hear you go, nope! Say, do not enter! Do not enter! It's very spoilery right now.
Yes. Pretty much ever since the time split, I'm like, nope, just nope. So, I mean, there are certain elements I don't mind you knowing about the houses fighting because that's, spelled out in all the trailers and things like that. So for me, if it's in the trailers, it's okay. Yeah, it's so, I mean, I know that they did it deliberately where you get attached and then, so it's really sad to see characters that you've grown fond of but couldn't recruit in time perish in battle. And you're like,
so it's your fault
it's not
that
necessary.
they're dying. You're the one to blame here.
No,
you didn't recruit them in time.
You can't
I'm
recruit
such a
them all,
supportive-
though, because you have to build up very specific stats for each student, and you don't have enough time to build up all those stats, so you can only really target certain students. So I got a couple, but I couldn't get a lot of them. So, and there's some that you can deliberately avoid in like big fights like that, and I did manage to spare quite a few in that big fight. But there are a couple that are scripted. So you have to, in order to move the story forward and to finish this fight, you have to defeat this particular student.
That can be a problem.
Yes, and I was like just so upset with that. I'm like, no, I don't want to fight this one. I like them. No.
It's amazing the change that like a week has done to you, because it feels like it wasn't that long ago you're there laughing, having a blast, going, oh look, I'm entering this guy into the dance competition, this is wonderful, we're having tea together, isn't this fun? And now you're like, I have to kill the people that I'm in love with, so this is not going well at all.
Yeah, war sucks. And I think it does have a really poignant story in that sense of, making everyone evaluate why they're fighting and are they fighting for the right causes, and having them all second guess because they recognize the people that they're in combat with, and so that makes them not want to really fight.
Yeah.
But not fighting means that they could die, and so there's a lot of, it's very layered, very, very layered.
So plot-wise, it is good? Even though it's heartbreaking, obviously, that just
Yes.
means it's been effective as far as you bonding with these characters.
I mean, if it can evoke strong emotions like that, I think it's doing a good job. My sister recently finished playing Red Dead Redemption for the very first time and was like railing on about. She's like, I can't believe it ended like that, and I hate the government in the game. And I'm like, you're saying all these things, but all I'm hearing is that it managed to get some strong emotions out of you.
You probably wouldn't be that upset unless you cared.
Exactly. And I think it's very effective at storytelling, beautiful and heartbreaking. So I don't mind a heartbreaking story. I mean, it hurts, but I love good story, full stop. So, yeah, I'm hoping it gets a little more cheery. Here's hoping.
We need another dance party right now. Can we just get that happening, please?
I thought I was getting close to the end of the story, and then it had another like curveball thrown at me. I'm like, typical like JRPG kind of games. I think I'm near the end, and there's like several more chapters.
You seem to never be happy with the length of games. Either they finished too short, and you're like, wait, where was the fifth gear? We never got out of it. And then you've got games that you're just like, I thought it was over, and it wasn't. Why isn't it over yet? Sometimes it's hard to find the right balance of the length of a game.
I know it sounds like I'm complaining. I'm enjoying it. I don't want it to end, but at the same time, I keep getting tricked by false finishes, basically. That's all I'm saying. So
all good.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on from you experiencing heartbreak at losing team members that you've bonded with and move on to Red Dead Redemption 2, where I am heartbroken for losing team members that I have been bonding with. I've explained that one of my favourite things about Red Dead Redemption 2 is that you have a family of outlaws that are all from different walks of life, different nationalities, different social statuses, but you're all on the run together. And you just know you're not all going to make it out the other side. When you're doing these risky missions and you're robbing banks, trying to get enough money to make a clean break at a new start in life.
A bit like Breaking Bad.
Yeah, when you know that they've gone this far deep into the life of crime, but all they need is that one big payday and then they can get out of it, and you're sort of cheering for the bad guys to just make this one heist go smoothly, please. So they have enough money to just move on. It's funny because the two ideas that get pitched around the camp a lot, where would you think they're in the Americas? It's basically the turn of the 1900s. Where do you think that they would like to move to as far as another country goes? There's two options that keep getting brought up.
Canada or Mexico?
Incorrect. Tahiti or Australia? Hearing these Wild West characters talk about the great land of Australia warms my Aussie heart, and I love it. So yes, I just want them to succeed. They put their eyes on the Saint Denis Bank, and I think, yes, just do this mission smoothly, no one gets hurt, and we'll rob this bank, we'll get our money, and we can make a clean break, new life, leave it all behind, happily farming mangoes in Tahiti. That's fine.
Or farming kangaroos here in Australia.
There's options. That's all we're saying. But in typical fashion, the story never goes that smoothly for people who are trying to have a Red Dead Redemption, some would say. And then a turn of events happened in the story that I did not expect, keeping it spoiler-free. But when my wife walks in and says, "What are you playing?" and I say, "Red Dead Redemption 2," and you're like, "What?"
It didn't really look very much like Louisiana to me, that's all.
Yes, well, I was not expecting the turn of events that have transpired, but if you have played and you have finished the chapter, 3, 4 in the Saint Denis area, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I have no idea what lies in the future for my gang of friends, but I have not actually played as much Red Dead Redemption 2 as I expected to this week.
Ooh. Part of that has to do with your streaming that you've been doing this week.
Yes. My good buddy the Falcon did play Subnautica, and he loved it and said I had to play it immediately. And especially after I had such a great time exploring the great unknown of space in the outer wilds, I thought what better experience to plop all of my holiday gaming time into than Subnautica, exploring a underwater alien planet, pretty much. You crash land your big ship onto a big watery planet, and you must survive. Seems simple.
Never is.
Open worlds are usually large enough that you can get lost in them, you can explore to your heart's content, and that's excellent. I love it in games that you can just go out there and see what's to the north, see what's to the west, see what's to the east. But with this, you not only have that X and Y axis, you have the Z axis of going down under the water. And I'm actually quite shocked at how big this map is.
How deep it is?
X and Y axis, and how deep it is. My crafts, I have, I'll be honest, I've made a few Seamoth submarines that have met a early demise, which is very frustrating when you've just pumped all your resources into finally building it. Yes, I've finally got the upgrade so I can go deeper into the ocean and then get chomped on by a big nasty. It's a pleasant game to swim around in the opening shallows, where you've got lovely little non-lethal fish swimming around that you can eat, and you can catch bladder fish to make water out of. And that's wonderful. But if you want to make the appropriate upgrades to your equipment, you're going to have to go deeper. And I'm no stranger to horror games. But I am so hesitant when it comes to just an open chasm that leads down into a dark depth. And I'm like, there's probably stuff I need down there. I don't really want to go down there, because I've seen some awfully big creatures in this ocean, and I've lost several sea moths to them as well.
Come across any leviathans?
Several. Several. They're actually called Leviathan class creatures.
Oh, really?
The big ones.
Yeah.
And big is not an exaggeration either. I have been streaming this all on my YouTube page and have had not only my good buddy the Falcon sit and enjoy watching me at work when his equipment broke down at the wharfs and they had to wait for it to be repaired, but I've had strangers reaching out and telling me that they love the podcast and that they're enjoying watching me play Subnautica. I played for 4.5 hours without a break, which is well above the recommended warning thing that they state at the start of every instruction booklet, let me tell you. But I was up until like 2 a.m. last night hanging out with a couple of people from all over the world, and we were just having a good old time in Subnautica. So thank you very much, community, for helping me enjoy a game, because it has been kind of fun.
And mocking your skills at steering your Delta.
No, look, the sea moths, they're hard to steer, okay? They're out of control. There's never any driver error. The earlier models, which I started to name them based off the phonetic alphabet, or the Greek letters. I couldn't decide. I changed halfway through after I went Alpha, Beta, Charlie. That's not how either of those go. But now we've gone to Delta, so I think we're just going to stick with the phonetic alphabet. Mm-hmm. Every time I build one, I upgrade it. I give it a name. I give it a paint job that reflects its personality. And then within 15 minutes, it's blown up and I have to go build a new one. So I'm very, very defensive over my current one, Seamoth Delta. He's a good boy. He's very well behaved, and I've just pumped more resources into more upgrades than ever with him. I can now go as deep as 900 meters in the Seamoth before I have to bail and swim away from it, before the pressure crushes it like an egg. I've never been anywhere near 900 meters down, and I'm too scared to go past like 400 meters. Now I've got the extra fear of losing Seamoth Delta as well. So there are fears in place here.
I wonder how long Delta will last.
Tune in next week where I'm up to Tango down the phonetic alphabet. Wonderful.
Oh, poor Delta.
Any questions about Subnautica you would like to know?
What's the weirdest looking fish you've come across?
There is one that I found very far down, and it is beautiful. It looks like a fish with flappy wings basically going behind it, maybe 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you swim anywhere near in front of it, it opens those wings and like these neon hypnotic dots come out and you hear a voice in your head telling you your prime directive is to come straight towards me. And then you just start moving forward without controlling your character. And then it chomps you.
Oh.
And the first time that happened, I didn't know what was happening, and it was mesmerizing and terrifying all at the same time. That is probably one of the coolest things I've found. There's giant electric eel slug things. We've had sand sharks. They're not all friendly. There's also other ones that are friendly, however. Just simple little friendly fish that you can eat, like Reginald. There is a fish type called Reginald.
Fair enough. Is Reggie delicious?
Oh, one of the best. I don't pass up a good Reginald. I've been playing on survival mode, so I do have to manage my food intake, my water intake. I've now got an upgraded knife that is like always hot, so I can just whack a fish and it's instantly cooked. I wish I had that in real life. That'd be very handy. But there are a few curveballs. There is a great story in this game. A lot of these survival games I have avoided for a long time because they didn't contain really any plot, any real story missions, any real lore. It was just, here's your world, try and survive. Then myself and the Falcon played The Forest, which did have a plot, a goal. And this has got data logs and you scan fish to find out about them and how they live in the habitat, and you find other escape pods that have crashed, whether you get their beacons or whether you just stumble across them sometimes. There's a lot to explore, a lot to do. There is a few very important things that I am trying to achieve before myself and possibly the entire planet meet their demise. Ultimately, I just want to get out of here and get away from these stupid, unreliable sea moths because they're just there's no garage to take them to get repaired. I've got to do it all myself. Do you know how awkward it is to change the oil on a sea moth? It's not an easy procedure. Not an easy procedure, but I'm loving it, and I'm probably going to be playing it as much as I can this week, which will be difficult because we are going away for a few days. So.
Get in as much as you can now.
It'll be between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. each night while my wife sleeps on our romantic getaway.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think that's everything that we've been playing this week.
That is just about everything. If anyone has been watching my streams and is frustrated at my slow progress, be understanding, please. I like to play these games as blindly as possible, and so I am quite dumb. I think I wasted the first 4 to 6 hours of this game really not achieving anything. And if you were a big Subnautica fan, you watched those early streams, you would just be banging your head against a wall going, that's not... Grab the... Oh my gosh, what is he doing? I love the sense of discovery and experimentation and finally, I can make a... fins, and now I can swim faster. I am the most smart crafter in the world. I like that sort of stuff, so maybe tune into the later episodes and you'll find them more enjoyable.
They definitely get more entertaining as they go.
Seamoth Delta! Charge!
If you want to find the links for the YouTube streaming channel for Hyper Brendo, head to thegaminglovers.com. Up next, special guests that have made an appearance in video games, particularly fighting games. Share the love. Follow us on Twitter at Brendo and Jem. That's BrendoJem.
Round 2. Fight. I didn't actually announce round 1 earlier. That was a lost opportunity. It's all good. Guest stars in video games. They've been here and there everywhere from Pepsi Man to Pac-Man and all the other mans in between. Fighting games in particular do have quite the history of guest characters.
Yeah, they can kind of get away with it too because the story that carries a lot of these fighting games are just so ridiculous.
Yeah, usually there's either no real story. It's just here's some characters, they're fighting each other, which is how it used to be. Maybe you'd have a paragraph in the instruction booklet back in the day explaining, there's a tournament on and everyone's invited, which is why Pac-Man can show up. For example, I'm sure he's qualified. He's passed the entry requirements. Mortal Kombat in particular has like a ridiculous story at this point where characters are coming in from multiverses and things like that.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you just have a game with gameplay. And Brawlhalla, which has made some waves recently with its guest characters, sort of a platformer fighter, similar to Smash Brothers if you want to think of what style of game it is. It started off with its normal roster of characters. They threw in some skins, which had alternate outfits, which were from other games, like Shovel Knight, and we've had Rayman. I don't know how well he fights because he doesn't actually have limbs. He just has floating gloves. So do they have the same impact without the bones of the arm behind it? I'm not sure. I'm asking the big questions here. But at E3 this year, Brawlhalla started to grab my attention when the Adventure Time cast got added into it as well.
Adventure Time.
Finn, Jake, and Princess Bubblegum added to this game, and then you start really noticing. And because we are also wrestling fans, Becky Lynch, The Man, The Rock, John Cena, these sort of characters get put into these games as well with a wicked cool art style. And they fit absolutely perfectly. Do all guest characters fit into games, or are there some oddballs that don't quite seem to fit into the slots as well as some others?
I think it depends on how well it's executed. There's some that definitely feel a little out of place and others that work surprisingly well. But half the fun, I think, when it comes to guest cameos in video games, particularly fighting games, is sometimes the ridiculous factor. So,
Absolutely.
like Piranha Plant, for example, technically still like a Nintendo character, but just seeing it in a fighting game feels out of place. But half of that, the humor is because it's so ridiculous. So It makes it fun.
We're going to bury the lead here and say flat out that we'll probably be finishing up talking about Smash Brothers, because when you talk about crossovers and guest characters in fighting games, I don't think anything can touch Smash Brothers. And there's also the great mystery of which two characters are yet to be revealed as the DLC Season Pass rolls on. So we have some ideas, and we will be pitching those at the end of this episode. But before we get there, I think one of the most absurd rosters of guest characters has to be from Tekken, this past iteration. Tekken 7. Okay? Tekken was always just a standard fighter game on the PS1. They're all different martial artists, and they're all having a big old Iron Fist tournament, and it's excellent. And then Tekken 3 came along and introduced a dinosaur called Gon, who farts on people. You're a big fan of Gon.
He's just so ridiculous. And it kind of, if you pair it with the line from Meet the Robinsons, I have a big head and little arms.
He does have a very big head.
I don't think this plan was very well thought out.
I got Tekken 3 very late, much later than most people, and wanted to unlock Gon, but I'd always played other fighting games and not really Tekken, so I was not all that good at Tekken, and I will confess, I never unlocked Gon, personally. I only played as him at a friend's house, and I'm ashamed of that fact. But we're all about being open and transparent with no judgment here. Now, what I find hilarious is that I just said that Gon is a weird character to include, but Tekken does have a giant bear called Kuma who can attack people as well.
Monokuma?
I'm completely fine with that. No, he's just Kuma.
Monokuma would be amazing. Sorry.
He would be.
I'm already wanting to jump to the very end. I just thought of that though. I hadn't thought of it before. But oh my goodness, that'd be terrifying and amazing. Yeah.
We've had quite a few Street Fighter and Tekken crossovers. There have even been games which have had half rosters from each series. So they're no strangers to it.
Yep.
But Akuma in particular in Tekken 7 shows up in the story mode. That's very interesting. But then when we got to the season pass for Tekken 7, things start getting very weird. Sure, characters from other fighting games occasionally leap over the lines into different fighting games. And that is the case with Fatal Fury's Geese Howard. Tell me that's not a good name for a fighter.
Who names their kid Geese?
Well, look, maybe he legally changed his name because he wanted to be called Geese. These are the true questions. So that's fine, okay? You've got a fighting character from Fatal Fury just coming across to play with the Tekken boys. It's happened in the past, and it's happened again. That's fine. But then, Noctis Lucius Calum from Final Fantasy 15 pops up in a Tekken game. Things are starting to get a bit strange.
He'd be fun to play as, though.
He has magic. He can teleport.
Mm-hmm.
He really has no fighting style outside of using weaponry. So is that even legal? I guess Yoshimitsu uses it in Tekken as well. So I guess it is legal. That's fine. But then things get to the pinnacle of weirdness with the Tekken roster when they introduced someone from another fictional world called The Walking Dead, where Negan and his barbed wire baseball bat, stolen from Mick Foley himself, show up in Tekken. Now that just confuses my creative mind to no end. How on earth? I know this guy is sinister. I know he is depraved and wicked and evil. And sure, you need a good villain thrown in here and there. But The Walking Dead is a TV show. Like, sure, it was a graphic novel and such, and the character existed before. But the TV show is where everyone got to know Negan, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's in Tekken, of all things.
Well, it's not the first time that someone's been taken from, like, TV or movies. You think Darth Vader and Yoda are in Soul Calibur.
Yes. Let's go on to Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur, one of my favourite fighting game series for a great many years because I had a Dreamcast and one of the first, 4 games I ever had was the original Soul Calibur. And at the time, the graphics in that were incredible. I loved to show off Soul Calibur to my friends who were playing games like Tekken 3 with their blocky, polygonal characters and just going, hey, you want to play a fighting game? Play this one. Now, the whole concept of Soul Calibur is that people do have weaponry, whether it be nunchucks or swords or spears or they've got scythes. They've had pretty much every weapon you can imagine. The old sword that becomes a whip that everyone's a big fan of, that's in Soul Calibur. You know who else is in Soul Calibur? Starting at Soul Calibur 2, someone who uses only their fists. From Tekken, no less. Heihachi. Heihachi Mishima from Tekken shows up on the PlayStation 2 version. I got no interest in that. He doesn't even have a weapon. That's not cool.
Well, Link shows up in Soul Calibur 2.
That's so much cooler, in my personal opinion. Maybe you've been a long-term Tekken fan and you wanted Heihachi in there. That's cool. But, my goodness, if you had Soul Calibur 2 on the Nintendo GameCube, you got to play as Link, and he had a sword, he had his shield, he had bows and arrows, he had bombs, he had everything. Seems a little overpowered, to be fair. My friend had Soul Calibur 2 on a Nintendo GameCube, and I was a little jealous because for some reason I got it on Xbox. So instead of a cool character like Link, I got a character that, sure, is cool, but not my level of cool, and that is Todd McFarlane's Spawn, who was having a slight resurgence in popularity after a movie came out that wasn't all that good. But I got Spawn, and he had a cool axe that was cool, but I didn't care about Spawn. I wanted Link. I don't know why I ended up with it on Xbox.
Did you buy it or did someone else buy it for you?
I don't know. I don't know if it's because of the controller. I didn't think the GameCube controller fit fighting games, except for Smash Brothers. Very
That's
strange.
Funny.
The Soul Calibur series, though, then got a little weirder when Soul Calibur 4 came out, and yes, you did allude to it.
Going a bit Star Wars with Darth Vader and Yoda.
Darth Vader and Yoda, two very different characters. And again, just like Soul Calibur had shown in the past, different consoles had different characters. And you could get the other one for a fee, which may put Darth Vader and Yoda among the very earliest versions of DLC characters for
A fighting game.
fighting games. Very interesting little trivia fact. Now, I had the PlayStation 3 version of this, which meant I got Darth Vader included in mine, which I thought was a lot cooler than Yoda, who is about a third of the size of the other characters, and I thought would be frustrating as anything to try and hit, and I did not want someone like yourself, who is prone to button mash, playing as Yoda. So that was legitimately part of the reason why
I would have chosen Yoda.
You would have chosen
I
Yoda.
would have been all
you would
over
have
Yoda.
button mashed. You would have whooped my butt, broken my self-esteem, as you frequently do in fighting games.
Let's be honest, regardless of what character I would have chosen, I would have whooped your butt.
You're so kind.
Fighting games bring that side out of me. You
An
know
interesting thing about Soul Calibur 4 is that there was also another character you could unlock. The Apprentice. And no, not Donald Trump.
You're fine.
Now that would be a good cameo appearance.
Oh my goodness, if people could play that these days, they'd probably just leave him standing there and just beat him up.
Well, remind me later, because there have actually been US presidents in fighting games before.
What?
So let me just dangle that in front of you before we talk about The Apprentice. Starkiller from The Force Awakens. No, I always say The Force Awakens. The Force Unleashed. It's just so similar in my brain. The Force Unleashed, which was an upcoming PS3 and Xbox 360 game, and they decided to advertise it in part by having the protagonist of that game added as an unlockable character in Soul Calibur 4.
Not a bad idea.
Little early tease for those who like it. Very cool. Things got even stranger. We also had Soul Calibur Legends, which had oh my lord. It had Lloyd Irving from Tales of Symphonia, a game that I had played on the Nintendo GameCube. But then Soul Calibur Broken Destiny, a game that technically I'm not even sure I knew existed, because it was probably a PSP version or something similar. It contained Kratos, the god of war himself, as a character that would fit so perfectly in a game like Soul Calibur. He has excellent weaponry, and that's really the only requirement I have for characters in Soul Calibur.
Really, any of the gorier fighting games, is it Mortal Kombat? That's really, he would fit in that one too.
He would. Keep that's a hint that it's not the last time we're going to hear Kratos' name in this. Later on, Soul Calibur 5 introduced Ezio Auditore from the Assassin's Creed series. Also the character that we named one of our pets after. Our very first pet together.
The very first ferret.
Ezio the Ferret, the perfect name for a slinky thief who can climb things and has charm coming out of his armpits. He also fit perfectly into the Soul Calibur world, but then things continue the trend of Soul Calibur having excellent guest characters with Soul Calibur 6.
This one almost feels a little topical given the Witcher Netflix series is coming out soon, with Geralt of Rivia joining Soul Calibur.
Again, he is known for using his weaponry to maximum proficiency, and he's not bad with a sword either. Also, 2B from Nier Automata. What did I say the first time? Automata?
I don't know. I'm still hung up on your last comment.
Nier Automata. Okay, I'll get it out right. And Huamaru from Samurai Showdown, which has recently had a new entry come out. All characters in Soul Calibur 6. Very interesting. Very interesting.
And Yoshimitsu, who is in Tekken.
Yes. I discovered him first in Soul Calibur and thought he was a Soul Calibur character.
No.
But he shows up in Tekken well before Soul Calibur was a thing. So, very interesting.
Interesting to see a bit of crossover over fighting games, which isn't a bad idea because it's all the same kind of demographic audience. If you did a lot of crossover together, then you're both going to benefit from residuals that would come in from those games.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you mentioned Mortal Kombat earlier. Shall we talk about the interesting turn of events that the Mortal Kombat series has taken in these past few years?
Aside from just getting over the top ridiculously gory.
Yes, it blows my mind that way back in the day, when really the only fighting game that anyone even heard about was Street Fighter 2. Okay, everybody knew what Street Fighter 2 was in the early 90s, and then Mortal Kombat came along and was so bloody and gory it had to be censored in some fashion. And the Super Nintendo version had all the blood replaced with giant globs of sweat. So where you would have blobs of blood flying out of a character from a pretty nasty hit, it would just be blobs of grey, which was supposed to be sweat. But if you were like me and you were a Sega fanboy, you got the uncensored red blood version, and you were the coolest kid in town, but I wasn't because my parents wouldn't let me have Mortal Kombat because it was too violent.
Isn't that so funny what was considered violent back then? Really, this pixelated stuff is nowhere near the level of violence that you would see on TV, or at least and especially nowhere near what it is today.
It's like one of the games that originally helped form the reason why we have rating systems for video games. And yet nowadays, even at E3 trailers and things like that, I have to turn away from Mortal Kombat trailers because there are cracking jaws and there are rupturing organs and people's skins are being flayed off them. I have no issue with gore. I can handle it fine. My wife, not so much.
No.
But even that is just like excessive to me.
Yeah. And I know that it's done so over the top to make it ridiculous. But yeah, it's just not... If I'm going to play a fighting game, it's not going to be Mortal Kombat.
Well, what if I told you that Kratos himself was a character in Mortal Kombat 9, the PlayStation 3 version?
Well, like I said before, it's his perfect environment. Very gory.
Very gory. He's no stranger to gore, especially if you've played up to God of War 3, which started to get a few executions in that game that I started to cringe at myself. And unfortunately, my wife did walk in at some key ones, and I'm like, nah, you picked the wrong moment to check out this game.
Isn't that always the way?
But also, speaking of gory, speaking of bloody, Mortal Kombat has had some very cool crossovers with horror movie, what do you even call them? Antagonists or protagonists? Everybody watches horror movies like Friday the 13th to watch people die, right? It's why you watch these movies. So really, is someone like Freddy Krueger?
He's an antagonist.
He's an antagonist?
He's an antagonist because the main protagonist is the person you're kind of cheering for to live to the end. If that even happens. I don't know. I don't watch them.
No, you usually watch them to see people make stupid decisions. Then you're like, I knew it. You're who's going next? Who's going next? Place your bets, everyone. Place your bets. Who's going to be the next one picked off? I love it.
No, I still don't watch them.
That's why I liked Until Dawn so much. What a great game. And I was in control of who was dying then.
And see, there are characters in that you could claim that the cast of that they're the protagonists that you're playing as, that you're controlling. You know, you're not controlling the antagonists.
That's true. There are some games that you do play the antagonist in, though.
Oh, for sure.
Very interesting dynamic change. But A Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger himself showed up as a DLC character for Mortal Kombat 9.
Isn't he, like, invincible, though?
Immortal.
Yeah.
Yes, well, when you get dragged into the multiverse of Mortal Kombat and the all-powerful Shao Kahn can just strip you of your immortality. So,
well, then wouldn't that dude be, like, impossible to beat? Or does he allow himself to be beaten in his own game?
Well, yeah, it's an interesting thing. In the original Mortal Kombat, Raiden, the God of Thunder, decided to make himself mortal so he would have a fair contest. He wanted to test his martial arts skills, and that just doesn't seem like a smart move for an immortal being.
No.
Especially when there's as many deaths as there are in Mortal Kombat.
Kratos goes, you did what? No.
Now, Mortal Kombat 10 or X, depending on who you talk to, some people defend one way or the other. That took it even a step further by introducing, from Friday the 13th, Jason Voorhees, who has quite the body count himself.
Who loves hockey, right?
He is a very big hockey fan, yes. He's frequently wearing a mask.
Okay.
And also Predator from the movie
Predator.
Now, what I loved about that in particular was if you had the Combat Pack 2, which did introduce 2 new characters as well. We'll get to those in a second. But there's a character called Jax, who has metal arms, and he had a DLC costume which dressed him as Carl Weathers' character Dylan from Predator. So Predator could shoot Dylan's arms off, yet again, just like he does in the movie, and everyone's happy. Now that is fan service right there. The other 2 characters that made it into Mortal Kombat X through its Combat Pack 2 is Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You're familiar with him?
No.
You'd know him if you saw him. And if you saw him, you would run.
I've heard of them, but no, still haven't seen it.
And also a xenomorph, which is a fancy word for alien, from the movie Alien.
So you could have Predator versus Alien.
You could. Or you could have the canonical way to say it, which was Alien versus Predator.
Posh.
Sorry, I know it's not your wheelhouse, but ever since I played Alien versus Predator on my PC years ago, anytime Alien and Predator crossed over, whether it be in comic book fashion or whether it be in movies that aren't all that good, but as just like popcorn flicks are great, seeing aliens and predators
guilty pleasures
fighting each other. So the end of Predator 2 has an alien skull in a trophy case, and that was like a little pokey, cheeky tongue. Look what we did to your thing from your series. And then ever since then, they've actually crossed over quite a bit. So to have them in a fighting game after having first-person shooter games, after having, movies, comic books, all these things, now they're in a fighting game together. That's cool. And what else could be more violent than watching Mortal Kombat Alien versus Mortal Kombat Predator? Excellent stuff.
Speaking of old rivalries, I think one of my favourite crossovers, I'm going to Smash Bros. Now, would have to be when they introduced Sonic to Super Smash Bros., which I think was Brawl.
Yes. Smash Brothers Brawl introduced Sonic the Hedgehog. Not that I know that for a fact, because I know every Sonic the Hedgehog fact imaginable or anything like that.
But it's something that, it's kind of like seeing the two systems rivalries kind of, you can literally have them face off, and depending on which team you're on, you would be Team Sonic, I would be Team Mario, and you could have it out once and for all. Of
course. Now, we've had the Sonic versus Mario rivalry for years, but to actually be able to punch Mario in his stupid fat nose as Sonic the Hedgehog made me so happy. I'm not going to deny that.
Well, you just remember that Sonic got invited to Mario's game. Thank you very much.
Excuse me. What makes you think Smash Brothers is Mario's game?
Because it's a Super Mario game.
I disagree. I disagree completely. It's Sonic's game. You're so mean. Why would you say such mean things?
Well, at least Sonic became so popular that he became not just a guest appearance, but like a staple character for the rest of the series. So not all guest appearances can say that.
No, some are just one and done. You know who is back for Mortal Kombat 11, though?
No.
Spawn. Voiced by Keith David.
Oh, that's kind of fun. Is that the correct voice?
From the animated series on HBO, yes.
Oh, there you go. It's not who I expected to be voicing him, but cool.
Did you say Sonic the Hedgehog and fighting games in the same world? Because there is a Sonic the Hedgehog fighting game called Sonic the Fighters.
Oh, dear.
It's as bad as you imagined. It is a very early 3D polygonal fighter. Yeah, not that good. Did have a character called Honey the Cat, which was based from the same character from Fighting Vipers. That's all you need to know about that. Just had to throw Sonic the Fighters in there. Terrible. Don't play it. I've played it a few times. You can get all the achievements on it in like 30 minutes, though. So that's pretty good.
Well, we'll be back with more of the guest appearances in fighting games after this.
You're listening to the Gaming Lovers Podcast. Want to join the conversation? Visit thegaminglovers.com. Record your comment or question by clicking on the button on the right-hand side, and you could be featured in the next podcast.
I won't leave you in suspense any longer. I hinted about US president being a playable character in a fighting game.
Yes.
Another one of my early Dreamcast games was the boxing game Ready to Rumble. That's 2 with a 2. And if you were fortunate enough to play Ready to Rumble Boxing Round 2, and that has 2 2s in its name, try and keep up. Hidden boxes, including... Now, which one of these is fake? I'm going to say 4 names.
Okay.
You have to tell me which one is not in the game. Shaquille O'Neal, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, or Michael Jackson?
Oh my goodness. Shaquille O'Neal?
That's incorrect. They're actually all in the game. It was a trick question. I'm sorry. Now, that is a strange bunch of
Hillary's
characters
in
making the jump.
You could make her fight her husband.
And as another extra character is Rumble Man, who is basically, you know how Bane in Batman and Robin is like just a normal guy and then he gets juiced up on Venom? Imagine if Michael Buffer got juiced up on Venom and you're basically having Rumble Man. If you don't know the name Michael Buffer, you will certainly know the sound clip. Oh, let's get ready to rumble! So the announcer has had enough. He's hopped up on steroids and he's going to punch your face in. there we go. Very
That
interesting.
is so random and amazing. What a great guest appearance.
Another quick little thing before I let you take the next one. Two of the all-time greatest games of the 16-bit era, Earthworm Jim and Boogerman. Both characters in the quite abysmally unplayable Clay Fighter 63 and a third on the Nintendo 64.
Graphics
Really
is
not
terrible.
good. But any game that has Boogerman, I mean, I loved Boogerman on the Mega Drive. The pick and flick adventure.
What teenage boy wouldn't? Oh my goodness. One of the ones that I played growing up, aside from Smash Bros. On the 64 was Killer Instinct. Now, that one didn't really have any guest appearances or characters, but later on, in 2013, there was Rash from Battletoads.
Those Battletoads were dormant for a long time, and they have been popping up here, there, and everywhere in the past couple of years.
Yep, nostalgia, baby. The Arbiter from Halo. Keith David makes another appearance. And General Ram from Gears of War.
I love how you said General Ram, so distinguished. Ignore the fact he's a freaky alien creature, but General Ram.
General Ram.
Wonderful.
Well, he's a general. He's got to have some respect.
Who was your go-to in Killer Instinct back in the day?
Orchid.
Orchid? Mm-hmm. That was a quick answer.
Yeah, I remember. My sister and I used to fight over who would play as her. She was our favourite.
Now, there are no shortage of guest characters in video games, but we could be here all day if we talked about these. The most important ones, of course, though, is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Smash Up, which included 3 of Rayman's Raving Rabbids as playable characters. One looking like a normal rabbit, one dressed in Splinter Cell gear, and one in a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle outfit. So what more could you ask for than Rabbids invading yet another bloody video game?
Oh, that would be a lot of fun.
But let's not forget, before we get to Smash Brothers, which is probably the greatest crossover roster in history, like if you pitched this idea to somebody 10 years ago, they would say it would never happen to have this many guest characters in a game, particularly non-Nintendo characters. But let's talk about the great rival to it, the one that is almost equal in quality and characters and impossible to distinguish between Smash Brothers and this as to which is the superior game. Cue your laughter after this line. PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. Sony gave it a shot too. Mascot Brawler. Not quite as popular as Smash Brothers, though. Didn't quite catch on.
Sadly not.
I had it on the PS Vita. I found it quite enjoyable, but probably because I had played so many games that featured characters from this roster.
I believe Nathan Drake was in it.
Yes.
You had Kratos making an appearance because it's Kratos and he's in every fighting game ever.
Well, he's showing up a few times, almost as much as Spawn or Keith David.
From Infamous, you have Cole McGrath. And I think he's in other stuff too, isn't he?
He was indeed, with all the Street Fighter cross Tekken action going on with their crossover games. If you had a PS Vita version, which I did, you could unlock Cole McGrath from Infamous 1 and 2. Very interesting. You've also got Jack and Daxter. You've got Kat from Gravity Rush. You've got Fat Princess, which is always a fun addition to any game.
Yes.
From Ape Escape, you've got Spike. You've got Nariko from Heavenly Sword. Sackboy from Little Big Planet. Sir Daniel Fortescue from Medieval, which I believe is making a comeback yet again. Good old Medieval. Ratchet and Clank, of course. Sly Cooper. Sweet Tooth from Twisted Metal. A whole bunch of characters. And the good thing is, like Smash Brothers, third-party characters were invited to this party as well. Third party. This is the third party that they were invited to. Isaac Clarke from Dead Space. From Bioshock, you can play as a Big Daddy. You've got Dante from Devil May Cry. You've got Raiden from Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. And, of course, who also shows up in every other fighting game, Heihachi Mishima from Tekken. The old man himself. He just can't stay away from the place. What I liked about this game was everyone was paired up with a rival, which suited their sort of gameplay style. Some of them were a bit of a stretch, but then you have character duos like Nathan Drake and Sly Cooper, both wanting to steal the precious artifact that they're in like a head-to-head rivalry about. Stuff like that. I loved it. And the other good thing about... this is going off topic. This isn't about guest characters. But another good thing I liked about PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale was the level started off a level from one character, and slowly as the fight went on, another game basically invaded that game, and there was a big crossover happening in the background of the world.
That actually reminds me a bit of playing Injustice, Gods Among Us.
Yep.
Because you would transition from one part of the level into another, like smashing through walls and different things like that. And I believe there was a crossover, which is interesting because it's very, DC heavy.
Yep.
But they brought in Scorpion
Yes.
as a guest appearance.
This will happen when you have a developer working on a series and they're like, can we just put him in? We've already made him. So
I'm a fanboy.
It'll be so much easier. But yeah, I also liked multi-tiered stages, which did happen in Dead or Alive, which I will throw in quickly before we get to Smash Brothers. But having things like Parappa the Rapper's Dojo invaded by Killzone soldiers. You don't expect that to happen in a game, and this is just in the background. You've got Metropolis from Ratchet and Clank, which gets a big lava-y explosion as Hephaestus from God of War shows up to start destroying everything. You've got other combinations like Paris from Sly Cooper invaded by Little Big Planet's weird creation devices and things like that. Mm-hmm. I love it. I enjoyed that game. It's nowhere near as good as Smash Brothers. And before we get to Smash Brothers, I'll throw in Dead or Alive, because you did just mention multi-tiered environments in a fighting game. Dead or Alive had that. It was another one of those series that I was definitely on the bandwagon for a long time. It has characters from Virtua Fighter and just sort of transplanted across from other fighting games. That's all well and good. But what I want to talk about is Nicole, who is a Spartan soldier from Halo in full armor. That doesn't seem like it should be fair in a martial arts tournament, right?
No. Especially the one hit should technically take someone's head off. But interestingly, she's now canon in not just the fighting game, but the Halo universe as well, which really begs a lot of other questions. Then, if she's canon, does that make all the fighting game canon in Halo? And what?
Yeah, I want somebody to put together the biggest flowchart that you can, linking which game, like Game A and Game B are known to exist in the same universe. Mm-hmm. And Game B has a guest character from Game C, which means they're in the same universe. And Game C shares a link with this level, which is in Game D. And I was like, how far do you reckon you could take that? How far could you go and keep how many different game worlds could be in the same universe? That's a fascinating little experiment that I'll get someone else to do because I'm too lazy to research it myself. Now, finally, Super Smash Bros. A game that when it was first announced for the Nintendo 64, I'd already had the idea for a fighting game with Nintendo characters. And I felt ripped off. I mean, sure, it was just like a schoolyard discussion with a friend, but I had the idea first. Where's my royalty checks? Even from the first game, which did introduce me to characters like Captain Falcon and Ness, who I'd never heard of before. Mm-hmm. Even Samus, I'd seen the character, didn't know her name, didn't even know it was a her.
Most people thought it was a guy until she changes outfits.
It's a bit strange. But anything that you could combine Mario, Donkey Kong, Pikachu, Jigglypuff, Luigi, Link, you're starting to get a good roster. Mm-hmm. Just with Nintendo first-party characters.
Can't forget Kirby.
And we can't forget Kirby, who, again, I'd sort of heard of, but didn't really know much about Kirby. I missed out on the early Nintendo consoles. Be kind.
Funny side story. We had some friends over recently, and one of the young girls was looking at all of our Pokemon soft toys, and then she found our Kirby soft toy, and she's like, which Pokemon is this?
Kirby Chew, I choose you. The literal best thing about Kirby in Smash Brothers is the fact that he does look so darn cute while copying any other character's outfit.
Yes.
After inhaling them. I love it. Anytime, I can't wait to see what Banjo-Kazooie Kirby looks like. That's going to be gorgeous.
Kirby better have a beak.
Is Kirby Banjo or Kazooie? That's what I need to know.
A bit of both? I don't know.
A mutant hybrid. As the Smash Brothers series has gone on, Melee stayed within the realms of Nintendo, but when we started to get to Smash Brothers Brawl, things got a little weird. Sonic the Hedgehog, as we've already discussed about, made an appearance as a playable character, which sure had happened in the Olympic Games and things like that, those sort of little silly mini-game games, but you could play as Sonic. And even stranger, you could play as Solid Snake.
And have the cardboard box. That was a nice little touch. It's interesting because he was slated to actually be in an earlier game, but it was too close to being released, and Hideo Kojima had given it its blessing, but it was a little too late, so he had to wait until the next game to come out.
Well, not only gave it his blessing, he personally requested for Snake to be in Smash Brothers Melee, but it was too late in development. But Smash Brothers Brawl introduced Solid Snake to punch Mario in his stupid fat nose, and Sonic the Hedgehog as well, who basically was just by popular demand. And everyone thought, who do you want in Smash Brothers? And they said, Sonic. Sonic, Sonic, Sonic. And it wasn't just me. I didn't submit 1,000 votes myself. But as we continue down the series, when we got to Smash Brothers for Nintendo 3DS and Wii U, which is the stupidest darn name in video game history. I hated those ones. Super Smash Brothers for Wii U. Super Smash Brothers for Nintendo 3DS. Why can't Nintendo just name their things well? We got some new characters joining the roster, which we didn't think we'd ever see.
A big one was Mega Man. That got a lot of attention when that announcement came. And one of my favourites was Pac-Man. Pac-Man hungers for battle.
You still remember that trailer, don't you?
It was just so funny because it's usually da-da-da joins the battle. Yep. So anything that's a little different sticks in my brain.
Pac-Man's understandable because it was a Namco character, and Namco did help with the development of that Smash Brothers game. Capcom's Mega Man, a bit different. Very synonymous with early Nintendo consoles.
Yes.
But owned by Capcom, and obviously all third-party things have to have the blessing of the developers. Then Ryu from Street Fighter showed up as a downloadable character, which I just thought, what? What on earth? Now we've got a platform brawler like Smash Brothers with an actual fighting game fighter joining the fight. That's confusing. And then Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII joins, and I'm like, nothing is sacred anymore. Anybody can join this game if Cloud Strife can.
And I think as we reflect on the history of Smash Bros., anybody can.
Anybody can, including a character that I thought would be perceived as a bit too sexual for a game like Smash Brothers.
Bayonetta, definitely an interesting addition to the cast, but I think a welcome one for a lot of Nintendo fans.
Oh, if you talk badass fighting style and fast-paced action, Bayonetta's awesome.
Yeah.
But
she almost seems like she would fit in with other fighting games a little better than Smash Bros. It's still cool to have her in the game nonetheless.
And after some of these characters came in for some entries and out for other ones, like Snake was only in Brawl and then he vanished again, Smash Brothers Ultimate, everyone is here! And not only everyone is here from previous games, we got some new additions from Castlevania. Simon and Richter have shown up, and Ken made sure that he would not let Ryu take all the spotlight, because when you can't have Ryu without Ken, you cannot. It's impossible. And then the DLC hit. Again, you want to talk strange additions to a Nintendo-based brawler. Let's throw in a character that's exclusively on PlayStation 4.
And get announced at the Game Awards. That was so good. Joker from Persona 5, which we are huge fans of. We were so like, whoa! When that got announced. And he's a lot of fun to play.
I legitimately thought it was just someone's fan-made video at first, because I thought that's ridiculous. They would never put a Persona character in there.
But they did.
That's
because I believe the creator of Smash Brothers is a huge fan of Persona.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
I love the fact that, like Kojima said, can my character be in your game? And then you got the director of Smash Brothers going to other game characters going, please, 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 I love your games. Can I have your character in it? I just love all this, like, you just imagine them at a bar, just, like, getting up the bravery to ask them. That's good stuff.
A lot of negotiations, I bet.
Very recently, we've also had Hero from Dragon Quest join the party and be basically immediately banned from competitive play because his random skills can be too powerful. Many Smash Brothers competitive leagues have banned Hero because he has like a JRPG menu that randomly has like 4 different abilities. Some are terribly weak, some are quite overpowered. You never know what's going to show up on it. You have to have the MP to use the ability, but some of them can be game-breaking, especially in competitive official ranked league environments.
Yes.
So, sorry, Hero, you're here, but no one's allowed to use you.
At least not on that level. Thank you for telling me that. I'll remember that next time we play. One of my favourite DLCs was Duck Hunt.
Duck Hunt.
It was just...
Didn't expect him to show up after so many years of being dormant.
So random to see something that's like such an old gaming character and really iconic in its own right. Was just kind of classic.
Yeah. It's just the variety of characters that have been revived to be put into a Smash Brothers game is astonishing.
Beating up that dog after years of it mocking me is kind of satisfying.
I'd be careful what you say on a live recording. Dangerous.
It's a digital dog. It's not a real one. I would never hurt a real dog.
Good.
Unless it snickered at me like that.
Unless it was in a legitimate competitive fighting league.
Oh, no.
In which case you could punch it in its stupid nose.
Are you talking about Mario again?
Yes. Anything goes. Banjo-Kazooie. Now, the most recent announcement for Smash Brothers, Banjo-Kazooie, was obviously made famous on the Nintendo 64 with 2 great platforming games, but has been in the villainous clutches of Microsoft for years because of their acquisition of Rare.
Yep.
If you ask me my dream characters in a fighting game, like Smash Brothers, Banjo-Kazooie would have always been at the top. A perfect fit for a platformer brawler. I never thought it would happen. Never thought it would happen.
And it'll be soon. Not
Thank
long to wait.
goodness Nintendo and Microsoft are on good terms as far as their interpromotional fun and blessings.
Yes.
This raises the big question, however. The last 2 characters on that season pass are yet to be announced. What do we think they are?
I know who I'd like.
Who would you like?
I think Kazuma Kiryu from Yakuza would be pretty awesome.
He would be awesome. He'd be the perfect character for something like a Tekken, which is more martial arts based because all of his things are martial arts.
Yes. And a bit of wrestling.
And just, maybe more than just a little sprinkle of wrestling moves thrown in there too. Always my favourite when I do
there
Yakuza
you go.
combat.
Throw him in Brawlhalla.
It's tricky. I'm not sure.
Monokuma. You might be the wrong tone for a Smash Bros. Character.
This is what makes it tricky, though. Originally, it was hard to pick because it was such a narrow field. What do Nintendo own and they are allowed to use?
And now it's wide open.
Now it's too open. And I'm like, there are too many characters to pick from now. We've got Dragon Quest, Metal Gear Solid, Bayonetta, Pac-Man, Link, everyone. It's so strange that it is so open. How do you even decide where to stop?
They could even get another mascot. They could go with someone like Crash Bandicoot.
I would love that. I originally never thought it would happen because, A, that used to be well within the Sony, Naughty Dog, Sony, this is our box, no one plays with Crash Bandicoot except for us.
Yep.
But then like Universal or Vivendi or someone bought the rights to it, and now Crash Bandicoot is technically allowed on
Pretty much anything.
So it could well happen. I think Crash Bandicoot would be a very good one, and you actually stole my answer. So now I have to scramble and try and stall while I think of another character. Obviously, I'd like anyone else from the Sonic saga because Sonic's there by himself. Eggman could be in a mech. Shadow the Hedgehog would be an easy Echo character. Tails and Knuckles with their own fighting style would be fantastic. Even Amy Rose with a whopping great hammer would be fantastic. But my pitch to you, what if, since we do have some Final Fantasy there, we know Square are happy to play ball.
Yes.
What if it was Sora from Kingdom Hearts.
Oh.
No shortage of abilities to draw from, fighting styles, jumping, platforming. He can do it all. I think Sora would be a great fit in Smash Brothers.
Totally.
And of course, we could just throw another rabbit in there if we had to. That could be the other character. They're in every other game.
It seems likely that they would make an appearance sooner rather than later. Could you imagine if Disney started bleeding into it? Would that be taking it too far? You think people would be like, no, Disney's ruining another thing.
Disney All-Star Battle Royale!
Oh, it would be like Star Wars versus Marvel versus classic Disney characters.
Oh
There's
my
enough
gosh, imagine
there.
the roster they could draw from.
Exactly.
Ooh.
That would actually be pretty funny to see. I see Olaf.
That would be out of left field. Olaf joins the fight.
Well, if you had Elsa, she's got a lot of snow attacks, and then she could summon the big, scary snowman.
Hey, stranger things have happened in the Smash Brothers world.
Maui with his fish hook.
All right, legitimately though, are you done? Let's
I
move.
want to roll now. King Triton could be interesting.
I want this game now. This sounds amazing.
Oh, all the villains. Oh, Maleficent would be fun.
Ursula would be cool.
Yes.
Jafar.
Yes. In different stages, one where he's kind of like just a sorcerer and one where he's Genie Jafar.
Or Big Snake Jafar. There's lots of
Ooh,
options.
Yes. Have him transmogrify to different stages.
Well, we are completely off topic now. If you have any ideas, of course, the one big dream for everybody is that Waluigi is actually the last character, because where's the love for Waluigi? If you have people on your Smash Brothers wish list, let us know. At Brendo and Jem on Twitter. We want to know, because we have the sway, obviously, and that way we can help make it happen. Your dreams aren't going to happen unless you tell someone about them. That's what I am told. And so let us know who you want as guest characters in any fighting game.
I wonder if they'll add Blythe from Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Blythe.
Blythe's the name of the protagonist that you play as. Boy
Ah,
or girl. And you
well.
can switch between which gender.
You'd probably anger a few people. Some people say there's far too many Fire Emblem characters as there is in Smash Brothers.
That's why
Let's not poke the beehive.
I'm thinking of what is realistic as far as trying to predict what they would include. And, you know, you look at past patterns. You don't seem thrilled with that idea. Oh, I've thought of the best one.
Oh, gosh. Should we go to break now?
The slice of bread from I Am Bread.
Octodad joins the fray.
Yes.
Let's take a break before things get too out of hand, shall we?
Share the love. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Gaming Lovers.
Well, let's get out of the fantasy world of fantasy booking the Smash Brothers DLC characters and get back to reality. What do you plan on playing in this upcoming week? Bearing in mind, it may be a bit of a tighter gaming schedule. We have a very busy week coming up.
That we do. As much Fire Emblem, I guess, as I can squeeze in. That's pretty much my main gaming goal. I keep thinking that I'm close to the end, but I'm wrong. So I'm just going to try to get as far as I can. I'm not going to make any promises about progress.
Well, at least you're honest about it. I guess that's important. Yeah, I really do want to play a lot of Subnautica. It'll probably be at the front half of this week. I'll be streaming most evenings until we vanish to a secret romantic getaway. But I think my plans of getting through Red Dead Redemption 2 are definitely not going to happen. And so sometimes you have to say goodbye to your gaming goals. So I'm probably going to be focusing on Subnautica much more than Red Dead Redemption 2. Why do I always do this? I get partway through a game and then get distracted by some shiny new toy. I have terrible commitment issues.
Is there anything you can take on the road?
Persona Q2, but it depends on how much video gaming I'm going to do on our little getaway.
I'd say you could bring at least just one game.
Okay. Well,
Yes.
Persona Q2 is probably what I'm up to. I have beaten the second world. We've done all the dinosaur antics. There were some strange twists, some strange turns, and maybe I'll report more on that next week on Gaming Goals.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, in the meantime, I'm going for a swim.
Oh, imagine Teddy and Mona and Koromaru and Aigis. They would be great for Super Smash Bros.
Would you stop?
No. Winnie the Pooh would be hilarious.
Professor Layton.
Ah!
Phoenix Wright actually has been in a fighting game. He was in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, I think. Excellent.
That's amazing.
He could attack people with his spiky speech bubbles when he said objection. It's true.
That's hilarious.
I'm not making that up. Bill Clinton for Smash Brothers. Get him in there. Let's get out of here. This is getting way too out of time, and I need to play Subnautica immediately. Chowski.
Bye, Nara.
Thanks for listening to the Gaming Lovers podcast. For more episodes or to watch some live stream gaming, visit thegaminglovers.com.